Okay, so week 7, day 2, quarantine day 39, or Thursday. It is week 7, so like I was saying on Tuesday, we are drawing back on the amount of work that we're doing, at least as far as the work capacity for metabolic conditioning stuff is concerned. So fewer conditioning pieces, shorter conditioning pieces, more of the strength work. We're still concentrating on building up that strength so that we're peaking next week with our strength. As if we were going into the competition, we would be at our strongest after using next week to recover from all the heavy strength work. So last week of heavy strength work. Today is the most, as far as the conditioning pieces are going. We do have our longest conditioning piece of the week today, but it's also an optional conditioning piece. You don't have to do conditioning 2 today. You're good cutting off at conditioning 1, especially if you're feeling particularly fried from doing all of last week's work, or just from the accumulation of fatigue over the past 6 weeks that we've been working, or just because we're living in a stressful time right now and maybe you need to take a little bit of time off. So very important that you listen to your body this week. If we were going into a competition, obviously this is where we're starting to begin our recovery weeks before we get into the competition, so that we're peaking at the right time. We have the energy to go into the competition and give it all that we've got. So pay attention to your body, what it's telling you as far as how much work you need to be doing or how much rest you need to be taking this week. Like I was saying, this is a stressful time for us. We have a lot of outside factors that we don't normally have affecting things, and that can have a very adverse effect on our training as well as our recovery. Just that added stress is enough to keep us from recovering like we should and be able to attack these pieces like we want to. So for today, got a kind of a different warm-up than what we do. So a little bit of skill work, working singles or double under attempts to bookend our 3 rounds of work. For the waiter's walk, in case you didn't know, that's holding overhead as we're walking with it instead of the farmer's walk or the suitcase walk like what we're usually doing. But don't worry, we've got that later on in the conditioning piece in here. If you want to, you can take the 100 singles at the beginning and the end to work on your double under skill. That's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Not really pushing it, especially if you're a scaled athlete. It's not something you have to have. And since Joe's our only RX athlete going into this competition, it's not really something that we want to stress too much. But if you want to work on it, go ahead and have at it there and warm up. Either way, it will get that blood flowing, body moving, get you primed for today. Then we're going into strength 1, take about 15 minutes for this. So from 15-minute mark to the half-hour mark, deadlift 5 sets of 6. The percentages are from 65% to 80 plus. So again, just like what we were doing with the front squats on Tuesday, we want you to go as heavy as you're comfortable going with this. So this is meant to be heavy. It's meant to work heavy deadlift repetitions. So these shouldn't be done as 6 singles. It should be 6 touch and go reps, but they should be very heavy reps for you. Again, if you're not feeling it today, if maybe your posterior chain is fried or you're just totally stressed out, it's not necessary to go super heavy with it. It's heavy as you feel comfortable with, but we do want to, if you can, go heavier than 80% on these to work on that barbell cycling with the deadlift. And this is our last heavy day as far as the deadlift is concerned, so our last opportunity to move weight. If you don't have a lot of weight, if you don't have enough to get up to that 80%, we can you can do the tempo thing with the slow eccentrics, but something that maybe be more effective is to take a stagger stance deadlift. So it's kind of like a single leg deadlift, but instead of like popping our leg out behind us like what we do with the single leg RDL, we've got it set up kind of like a kickstand with our heel off the ground, just the ball of the foot touching so that we can keep balance, and we're really just pulling with one leg for the deadlift. So stagger stance deadlift is an option if you don't have the weight to get up over 80%. I would say cut these percentages in half if you're going to do the stagger stance and work up from there. Single leg strength doesn't necessarily correlate to half the percentage of what you would do with the regular movement. It's probably going to be less because of the balance aspect of it, and we're not necessarily balanced with strength in our legs. So you might find that your left leg is a lot weaker than your right leg if we do this stagger stance. And that'll be good for us for finding our imbalances, so it's something that we can work on when we do get back into the gym or in these next few weeks of quarantine while we're still waiting to get back, and we can focus on these types of things because we have the time. So that'll be 15 minutes for that deadlift work in there, and we'll go to strength 2, push presses. So skill work at weight. These are relatively high rep ranges and also at a relatively high weight. So we want to work on that rebound out of the bottom, going back overhead, pulling the weight back down into the front rack, and immediately going overhead. Take 15 minutes on this, the 10-8-6, 8-10 rep scheme that we've been using. Again, we want to see you go up to 70% at least, preferably more if you can, and then for your second 8 and your second 10 to be heavier than the first set of 8 and 10 if you can. Again, this is about working not just the strength, but the skill at the heavier weight for our push press. Push press can be a quick way for us to move through shoulder to overhead movements in a WOD. And the better we are at the push press, probably the better we're going to be at the push jerk as well. Very good for building not only the overhead strength, but also dynamic strength with our hips, popping our hips, like we do so much in CrossFit with so many different movements. 15 minutes for that push press work, and then we'll go into conditioning 1, 8-minute AMRAP, 16 pistols, and 100-foot farmer's carry. This isn't necessarily about going fast as being controlled in our movements, especially with the pistols. If you don't have the pistols, you can either do a super narrow stance, like feet together narrow air squats, or you can do the pistol eccentric, sitting down to a box and then doing 2 feet to stand back up for your pistols, the substitutions in there for those. And then the 100-foot farmer's carry, again, we want to be controlled with this, making sure that we're not letting the weight pull us forward, we're not swinging it back and forth, but that we have our arms locked to our side, our shoulders are back, we've got a strong, steady core, and that we're moving at a steady pace the entire time with our farmer's carry. So steady movement more than sprinting or moving fast on this. Want to carry that pace all the way through the 8 minutes. It is a shorter time domain, but it's also probably something that you're more likely to see in competition, as they have a lot of shorter pieces to work through, especially with how many different divisions are going to be at SummerSlam. They're probably going to have a lot of short duration workouts, so that you're going to have to be able to move at that steady pace all the way through, and that'll do us a lot better than being able to sprint for that first 3 minutes and then falling apart for the last 5 minutes. And then our optional piece, conditioning 2, if you have the time to get to it, if you want to do it, if you're feeling fresh, 21-15-9, and then 15-12-9, and then 12-9 and 6 of lunges. So per side, 21 lunges each side, 15 lunges each side, 9 lunges each side, so that we're keeping it even. And then double unders or 2 times the singles, and then the hang clusters. The hang clusters are meant to be a very lightweight, something that you can move through really quickly. If you don't have 2 dumbbells, 2 light dumbbells, or 2 light kettlebells, you can do this with your sandbag as well. You're meant to go through these hang clusters unbroken. We don't want to be breaking it up into a ton of different sets. And you'll be taking 3 minutes of rest between each of the different rep schemes. If maybe you need a little bit more work, but you're not feeling like you have all the time to do the entire thing, or you're not feeling fresh enough to do the entire thing, You can knock off the last two sets and just do 21, 15, 9, or even 15, 12, and 9, or you can do like choose 2 and go with that. Really a lot of options for you to do here, but again, we're looking for you to move steady through this, not to burn out on your lunges or your dubs and then having to slow down and really take a lot of time with the hang clusters. So we want to move steadily through the entire thing, no sprinting at any point in it. Rather you go slow and unbroken than for you to sprint at the beginning and then fall apart. That should really be the theme of what we're looking at here now, is looking at these things as regular workouts that we would see in a competition or that we'd see in class every day. So now our strategy isn't about trying to build our metabolic conditioning, but to find strategies for how to attack an 8-minute AMRAP or 21, 15, 9 or 15, 12, 9 type of reps. That should be our goal for today's pieces as we come at it, which means also attacking these as 3 different workouts rather than one long workout, which is why you also have the option of breaking it up into 1 workout, 2 workouts, what have you, however much you're feeling like doing for today. That's it for today's work. Like I was saying, this is the most conditioning that we should be seeing this week, and the heaviest day that we're going to see this week. So we should be starting into that recovery, that taper for what should be meet week next week or competition week next week, where we really draw back from both the weight and the volume that we're doing, so that we're ready to go into the actual competition, not necessarily fresh, but prepared, rested, and still maintaining both strength and our metabolic conditioning from the previous 7 weeks. That's it for today. Again, hit me up with any questions that you have, comments, concerns, suggestions, kind of here at the end of things. People are probably pretty burned out or frustrated with having to do everything from home. Stick with it. We're almost done. Then you'll get a little bit of break from the competition prep, kind of go back to the regular classes for a little bit, and then we'll see what we can offer after that. So keep with it. Good luck today with the rest of the week.